Good evening, guys. Just revise the concepts of yesterday's class. Okay, we'll start the class in 2 minutes. Yeah. So, what was the last topic we were discussing yesterday? We finished reflection, right?
Mirror formula. I think we ended it. No, sir. Magnification. I think we ended it with magnification.
Yeah. So, this is the last topic that we saw yesterday. Now, we'll start the concept of refraction. Okay. So, when I talk about refraction, what is the basic definition of it?
Bending of light from medium when it strikes the medium.
So, it is a phenomenon where bending of light takes from
one medium to another.
one medium to another. So, here we are using the word medium, right? What does that medium mean actually? So, what is that medium I'm trying to talk about? Generally, the media are classified into two types. One is called as rarer medium, and the second is called as the denser medium. right? So what is this rarer medium all about? Suppose there is a boundary, okay? Ray is traveling from one medium to another. Then there is a possibility that the ray will start bending. What do I mean by bending here? Bending means it is going to move away or towards from its actual path, towards the normal, from its actual path. It is not going to continue in the original path in which it was traveling, provided there is a difference in the nature of both the media across which the light is getting transferred. Correct? Am I right?
Yes.
Right. So what do I mean by rarer and denser medium? So what do we mean by rarer and denser medium? On a comparative scale, if speed of light
So if it's
in
more than it's rarer, and if the speed is less than distance.
greater than the speed of light in other, then the medium is said to be
Rarer.
rare, and the other is said to be denser. As simple as that. Correct? So on a comparative scale, if the speed of the light in medium is greater than the speed of the light in the other, then the medium is said to be rarer and the other is said to be a denser medium. As simple as that. Right? Now, so the property of the medium which decides the speed of light is called
Refractive index.
optical density. It's called as optical density. Right? Optical density is the parameter which defines the speed of the light in a given medium. Okay. So having said this, we need to see what are the laws of refraction that are present. Guys, concentrate on the content. Don't worry about the notes. If you want, I can share the notes also. Concentrate on the content. Whichever is important, I'll ask you to write it. First, so what are the laws of refraction state?
So first, the incident ray, refracted ray, and the normal all lie in the same plane.
Incident ray, refracted ray, and the normal all lie in the same plane. Secondly,
Snell's law. So the thing, the
ratio
refractive index is sin A by sin R.
ratio of sine of angle of incidence
An angle of
to
refraction
the
is constant, right?
yes to the sine of angle of refraction is always a constant. And what is that constant called as? And the constant,
Refractive index.
yes, and the constant is termed as refractive index. Right. So sine I divided by sine R is equal to mu. And this mu is what we call it as the refractive index. Right. And this law is called as
Snell's law.
yes. And this law is called as Snell's law. Okay. So moving on to the next step, that is definition of refractive index. So refractive index is basically classified into two types. One is called as absolute and the second is called as relative. So what do you mean by absolute refractive index?
I think with
So,
respect to the speed in vacuum, it's absolute, and
yes.
any two medium
So,
is relative.
yes, C divided by V is what we call it as absolute. That is the ratio of speed of light in vacuum to the speed of light in a given medium is absolute, because you're doing a comparative study with respect to a known parameter. Whereas what is relative? Relative is V2 divided by V1. Or I can write V1 by V2. So it is the ratio of the speed of the light in both the media. So V1 by V2, I will write it as mu2 divided by mu1, because if I call this as mu, observe mu is inversely proportional to Vm. Am I right? So when mu is inversely proportional to Vm, mu2 by mu1 will be equal to V1 by V2. Clear, guys? Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is what we call it as refractive index. Okay. Now, a relation between refractive index of rarer and denser medium. Okay. So refractive index of rarer is inversely proportional to the speed of the light in rarer. Refractive index of denser is inversely proportional to the speed of the light in denser. Okay. So mu r divided by mu d will be equal to Vd divided by Vr. See, Vd divided by Vr is less than 1. Right? Refractive
Yes,
index, it is less than 1. So refractive index of rarer medium is less than the refractive index of the denser medium. So going forward, whenever there are two values given, 1.27 and 1.43, then you can conclude this is rarer and this is denser medium. So clear, guys? Having said these things, we can modify Snell's law like this. Modified Snell's law. If I take a boundary, this is medium of refractive index mu1. This is a medium of refractive index mu2. When light is hitting the surface, okay, this is called as the incident ray. When you draw this line, then I call this as the angle of incidence. So if this is taken as the angle of incidence, then sine of the angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction. So this is the actual path. So the ray will start bending. So the bending can be either towards the normal or away from the normal. That's a different story. But in this context, let's say it is bending towards the normal. I take this angle as r, so that this is called as the refracted ray, and this is called as the angle of refraction. So sin I by sin r, in this context, I can write it as mu2 divided by mu1. Okay. So what did I write? I wrote it as mu2 divided by mu1. So what I'm trying to say is sine of the angle is inversely proportional to the refractive index of that medium. Is that clear, guys? So when I define Snell's
sir.
law, what did I say? Sine of I by sine of R is equal to mu, which was absolute refractive index. Now I wrote it as mu2 by mu1, which is in terms of relative refractive index. So be careful with it. Okay. Now, the better way of writing it is take the refractive index mu1. Okay. Refractive index of a medium multiplied with sine of the angle in that medium I is equal to refractive index of the second medium into sine of the angle in that medium, that is sine R. So mu1 sine I is equal to mu2 into sine into R. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? So going forward, I'll be solving all the problems based on this formula only. I will write the formula in this way only. Remember, at that point, don't ask me how I got it. Clear, guys? Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, what happens when a ray travels from rarer to denser medium? So what happens when a ray travels
Speed-
from rarer to denser?
Speed decreases and it moves towards the norm.
That's right. So if I take a ray like this, I call this as mu r and I call this as mu d. If I drop a line like this, then this is I. Okay. Then this is going to, oh, sorry. Then this is going to be the actual path. Okay. So mu r multiplied with sine I will be equal to mu d multiplied with sine r, where I didn't write r as well. So sine I by sine r is equal to mu d divided by mu r. So refractive index of denser is greater than the refractive index of the rarer. So can I write that this is greater than 1? Right. So sine I by sine r is a value which is greater than 1, which implies sine I is greater than sine r. Tell me, is sine an increasing function or a decreasing function?
But till pi by 2, it increases and then it decreases.
So here it is acute only.
So it will be increase.
Increasing.
So I is greater than r. When I is greater than r, this is going to be I. Right. So when I is greater than r, the value of r should be somewhere between the actual path and the normal itself. So this is how you're going to get. Right. Clear, guys? So this is what happens. So what will happen? The ray starts bending towards the normal. The ray starts bending towards the normal. That's it. Similarly, when the ray is moving from denser to rarer, what will happen? When the ray is moving from denser to rarer, I will be less than R, which implies it bends away from the normal. You can use the same logic and derive it by yourself. Okay. Any doubts till this point, guys? Any doubts till
No,
this
sir.
point? Is everything clear?
No, sir.
Good, good. So what we can do next is we can see the concept of refraction through a glass slab. So when I take the refraction through a glass slab, I can do something like this. If I take a glass slab, the ray is hitting the surface. Outside I call it as air medium. Here it is a glass medium, and again here it is air medium. So if I take this angle to be I, the ray moves like this. So when the ray is moving from rarer to denser, what happens? It starts bending towards the normal. Right? When it starts bending towards the normal, it hits the other surface. At this point, what will happen?
It will again be reflected away from.
Away from the normal. So if this is I, this will be R, and this is R, and this is going to be I. Right, I'll call this as R1. Sorry, this is not going to be I. I call this as R. If this is R, this is also going to be R because they are alternate interior angles. Then if I call this as E. So what am I trying to say? This is the incident ray, this is the refracted ray, and this is the emergent ray. Right. I call this as mu1, mu2, and mu1 again. So how many times is it undergoing refraction? 2 times. So apply Snell's law at boundary 1 and applying the Snell's law at boundary 2. What am I going to get? Mu1 into sin I will be equal to mu2 into sin R. Similarly, applying Snell's law at point number 2, I get mu1 into sin R is equal to mu2 into sin E. Okay. Sorry. Mu2 into sin R is equal to mu1 into sin E. Right. So mu2 into sin R, mu2 into sin R, mu1 into sin I, mu1 into sin E. So they both are same, is equal to mu1 into sin E. So mu1 will get cancelled. Sin E is equal to, sin I is equal to sin E. So what can you conclude? I is equal to E. So I is equal to E implies what? The incident ray
An emergent ray.
Are parallel.
and emergent ray are parallel to each other. Are parallel to each other. That's it. Right. So they are parallel to each other, no doubt in that. But if you see, this is the actual path, and there is a shift.
Lateral displacement.
This distance is what we call it as
Lateral displacement.
or we can call it as lateral shift. Okay. So now our job is to calculate the lateral shift. So let's see how to do it. Okay. If this is I, sorry. Okay. Listen, this distance, I will call it as delta x. Okay. So if this is I, this is R, then how much is this angle? So this angle is I minus R. Correct? So this angle is already R, then this angle is E, which is nothing but I only. Am I right, guys? So the logic in this chapter is whenever you want to find the distance, okay, look for right angle triangles and apply trigonometry, as simple as that. So if I take this distance as T, okay, if I take this distance as T, then how many right angle triangles are we able to see? If I take this as A, B, C, and D. So I will take the right angle triangle ABC. A, B, and C. Okay, if I take this as T, okay, I will look for an other right angle triangle. What is the other right angle triangle that you're able to see?
ADC.
You are able to think of ADC, where it is right angled at D. What is DC? Delta X. AD, I don't know. AC is common. So angle A in this context is I minus R. Am I clear till this point?
Yes, sir.
Now see. So in these two triangles, what is common?
A and C.
AC. So what I can do is here T is known, here delta X is known, R is there, I minus R is there. Now listen to this carefully. I will take cos R here so that I get T divided by AC. I get sine of I minus R so that I get delta X divided by AC. Okay. Now what I will do, I will divide both. Sine of I minus R divided by cos R is equal to delta X divided by T, which implies delta X is equal to T into sine of I minus R divided by cos R. So delta X is equal to T into sine of I minus R, I can write it as sine I cos R minus cos I sine R, the whole divided by cos R. So delta X is equal to T into sine I minus cos I into tan R. Is it clear till this step? Sin I minus cos I into tan R. But if you observe, T is a known, see, whenever you do an experiment, right, you need to calculate the final output. The values that are involved in the expression should be the ones which you can calculate simply. For example, T is easy for us to calculate, thickness of the glass slab. I is under our control, but R is not under our control. So for that, what we are supposed to do is, listen to this again. I will apply Snell's law at either of the boundary. Then I can write mu1 into sin I is equal to mu2 into sin R. Generally, mu1 is 1 and mu2, if I take it as mu, I'll take all these values and substitute it here. Sin I will be equal to mu times sin R. So sin R will be equal to sin I divided by mu. Okay, let me call this expression as 1. So sin R is equal to sin I divided by mu means, what can I do? Tan R will be equal to sin I divided by root of mu square minus sin square. So what I did is, I took a right angle triangle. I took this as R. This is sin I. This is mu. Sorry. This is mu. Then this would be root of mu square minus sin square. Okay, let me call this as equation number 2. Using 2 in 1, I get delta x is equal to T into sin I minus cos I is what? Cos I only, into tan R is sin I divided by root of mu square minus sin square. So delta x will be equal to T times sin I into 1 minus cos I divided by root of mu square minus sin square. Here, guys. Okay. So the next concept that we are going, did everyone copy it? So the next concept that we are going to discuss is total internal reflection. Okay. So what is this total internal reflection? It means when a ray is traveling from denser to rarer medium. Okay, when it travels from denser to rarer medium, what will happen? The rays start bending away from the normal. So as I keep increasing the angle of incidence, I can say that it starts bending more away from the normal in such a way, at one particular angle of incidence, I can say that the ray will pass along the surface, it will graze along the surface. Okay, this concept is called as grazing, Grazing. So it starts grazing along the surface, and this concept is what we call it. So if you increase the angle beyond this angle, then the ray,
Bounce back.
yes, instead of moving to the other medium, it starts bouncing back to the same medium. Okay, it starts bending back into the same medium, and this concept is what we call it as total internal reflection. Okay, so here there are two important points to be noted. One is the angle of incidence in the denser medium for which the angle of refraction is 90 degrees is called, for this the angle of refraction is 90 degrees is called critical angle. It's called critical angle. And during the critical angle, how you calculate is, if I take the refractive index of denser medium as mu and the rarer medium as 1, the ray starts bending like this. This angle is 90 degrees. So applying Snell's law at the surface here, at the first boundary, I can say mu into sine I will be equal to 1 into sine of 90 degrees. So sine I will be equal to 1 divided by mu. So I will be equal to sine inverse of 1 divided by mu, where this I is what we call it as critical angle. Next. The phenomenon of bending back of light into the denser medium after the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle is called total internal reflection. So the bouncing back of light into the same medium after the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle is what we call it as the total internal reflection. Okay. Next. So the next concept that we are going to see is real depth and apparent depth. So if there is any doubt, please stop me, okay? Any concept you want me to explain it again, please stop me. So next concept is real depth and apparent depth. suppose I have an object PC and due to this object there is a ray. So there is a person observing from here. Okay. So at this point, what will happen? The ray will start bending away from the normal. Second, there will be a ray which is incident on the surface perpendicular to it. That is, at the angle of incidence is going to be 0 degrees. At this instant, what will happen is, okay, at this instant, what will happen is, it will travel without any deviation. So if you observe, this is one refracted ray, this is another refracted ray. So is there a possibility for these two refracted rays to meet? Is there a possibility for these two refracted rays to meet? The answer is
No, sir.
no. Because they are getting diverged away from each other. As a result of which, if you backtrace it, so this is the point at which the image is formed. There is a point at which the image is formed. So what I'm trying to say is, if I say that the object is actually kept, so this is in denser medium, this is in rarer medium. If the object is actually kept at a depth of h, or we call it a small h, then the object appears as if it is floating in the middle of the surface, which I will call it as apparent depth. So h is called as the real depth. Okay. Now listen to this carefully. If I take this as the angle of incidence, then this is going to be the angle of refraction. If this is the angle of refraction, then this is also r. Right. Similarly, if this is I, this is going to be I. Right. Now tell me, our job is to find the relation between real depth and the apparent depth. Again, what is getting involved? Distances are getting involved. When distances are getting involved and angles are involved, what is that we are supposed to look for? Look for the right angle triangles. Okay. So if I take the triangle OAB, then I get if I take the triangle OAB, this is going to be I and this is H. Tan I will be equal to how much? AB divided by small h. Accepted? Similarly, if I take the triangle IAB, then this angle is R. This will be the real depth, sorry, apparent depth. Then tan R will be equal to how much? Apparent depth divided by AB. There is a mistake here. I'm sorry. This is not R. This is R. Because this angle and this angle are corresponding angles. So this is not R. So this will be R. So tan R will be equal to AB divided by the apparent depth. So tan I is AB by H, tan R is AB by apparent depth. So tan I divided by tan R will be equal to AB by H divided by AB by AD. So AB and AB will get cancelled, which implies tan I by tan R is equal to AD divided by H. Right, how much is it? It is AD divided by H, where AD is the apparent depth, it is not the side. It is the apparent depth divided by H. Is it clear to the question? Any doubt? Right. So, having this in mind, if you apply Snell's law, then you get sin I by sin R is equal to mu. Right. Sin I by sin R is equal to mu. Sorry. This is mu, right? Sin I by sin R will be 1 by mu. Or I will write it like this. Mu times sin I is equal to 1 times sin R. So which implies sin I by sin R is equal to 1 by mu. When sin I by sin R is 1 by mu, remember here the angles are very small. The angles are very small because the pupil size is very small, that these two refracted rays are supposed to be very close to each other for this eye to perceive them as a single image. Okay, since the size of pupil is very small, angles are very small. When angles are very small, sin I by sin R can be approximated to tan I by tan R, which is also equal to 1 by mu. So I will call this as 1. I'll call this equation as 2. So from this, I can conclude apparent depth divided by H is equal to 1 by mu, which implies apparent depth is equal to H divided by mu. Right? Guys, am I clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is everything clear? Okay. So this is about the relation between the apparent depth and the real depth when the object is placed in the denser medium. Okay. So in today's class, we have discussed more derivations. Rather than theory, we have discussed more derivations, for which I personally feel you need some time for devising. So go through all these concepts before tomorrow's class. Okay. Tomorrow we'll try to do some problems based on these concepts. Then we'll go to the subsequent topics. That is the refraction that is taking place at spherical surfaces and all other parts. Okay. So I suggest everyone to practice till here. And if there is any doubt, reach out to me on the student support number. Is that clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.